All right, today we're going to talk about something that might sound a little radical. An idea in application monitoring that's almost heretical. What if that constant chase for 100% uptime is actually a mistake? What if there's a much smarter way to get that rock-solid reliability while also moving fast and shipping new features? Let's get into it. So let's just start with a big, kind of counterintuitive question. For years, the gold standard, the thing everyone in engineering chases, has been 5 nines of reliability, or even that mythical 100% uptime. But what if that goal isn't just hard to reach? What if it's actually a trap that just eats up all your resources for very little real-world benefit? And look, this isn't just some hypothetical idea I'm throwing out. The people who run some of the absolute biggest systems on the planet, we're talking about the site reliability engineering team at Google, they put it right out there in their book. They argue that aiming for 100% is not only basically impossible, but it's also just the wrong move strategically for your business and for your users. Okay, so for this first part, let's just tear this myth apart. We're going to look at the very practical, real-world reasons why that chase for perfection can end up completely hamstringing your engineering teams, keeping them from doing the work that actually matters. So why is this chase for perfection such a losing game? Well, this slide lays it out perfectly. First off, the number one reason systems go down is change. Pushing a new feature, updating a library, that's what introduces risk. So if your goal is 100% uptime, you basically can't ship anything. Innovation just stops. Second, and let's be honest, even if your servers are perfect, your users' Wi-Fi isn't. Their real-world experience is never going to be 100%. Third, you hit a wall of diminishing returns and you hit it hard. Getting from 99.9% to 99.99% reliability can cost a fortune in engineering time for a benefit most users will never, ever notice. And finally, it puts your team in a constant state of defense, just reacting to tiny blips instead of proactively building a better product. It is a perfect recipe for burnout. So, if 100% is the wrong target, what is the right one? This brings us to a way smarter, data-driven framework. It's what Google SREs came up with to create a healthy, productive balance between reliability and shipping new stuff. Let's talk about service level objectives, or SLOs. So it all kicks off with something called an SLI, or a service level indicator. Think of this as just the raw data. It's a simple, quantifiable number that tells you how your service is doing. The classic example is just your HTTP success rate. You take the number of successful requests and divide it by the total. That's it. It's a pure, unbiased signal of your system's health. Okay, so you've got your raw measurement, your SLI. Now what? Well, you set a target for it. And that is your SLO, your service level objective. Now, this isn't just some random number you pull out of a hat. The whole point of an SLO is to define the exact point where your users are happy. It's your promise to them. You might decide, for example, that if 99.9% of requests succeed, your users are having a good experience. That's your SLO. And this is where the magic happens. The second you define an SLO, you automatically get something called an error budget. It's literally just 100% minus your SLO. And this concept is a complete game changer. It reframes the whole conversation. Instead of failure being a 4-alarm fire, you now have an explicit, pre-approved amount of unreliability you can live with. It's a budget you can spend on taking calculated risks, like, say, launching that cool new feature. Let's make this super concrete. Say your SLO for request success is 99.9%, and you get about 1 million requests in a month. Your error budget is that remaining 0.1%. Do the math, and that's 1,000 requests. You can afford for 1,000 requests to fail that month. So maybe that risky new feature you just launched causes 500 errors. Okay, no problem. You've just spent half your monthly budget. It makes risks something you can actually measure and manage. And here's the absolute key takeaway. The error budget becomes this objective, data-driven tool for making decisions. If you've got plenty of budget left in the month, great, go ahead and ship that new feature. If you're running low or you've already burned through it, the data is screaming at you time to pause launches and focus on making things more stable. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about gut feelings or who shouts the loudest, it's about data. All right, so the philosophy is solid, right? But how do you actually do this stuff? How do you put it into practice? Let's move on and see how this whole idea is built right into the tools that Google Cloud gives you, making this application-first approach a reality. The really big mindset shift here is moving from being resource-centric to being application-centric. The old way, you were always looking at things from the bottom up. Is the CPU on this VM okay? Do we have enough disk space on the database? But hey, a CPU spike doesn't always mean your users are having a bad time, right? The new, much smarter way flips that completely on its head. You start with the application and its SLOs, and then you trace problems back to whatever infrastructure is causing them. It creates a direct line between system health and the actual user experience. And this is exactly what application monitoring on Google Cloud is built for. It's designed to give you that top-down, application-centric view right out of the box. It automatically finds your services, builds dashboards with all those key golden signals we care about, and even draws you a map of how all your different microservices are talking to each other. It helps you see the whole system, not just the tiny individual parts. Now, the engine driving all of this, the powerhouse under the hood, is the managed service for Prometheus. And this is huge. It means you get all the power of Prometheus, which is the open source standard, but without any of the headache of actually running and scaling it yourself. It's built on Monarch, the same ridiculously scalable system Google uses internally, and you get to keep using the tools you already know and love, like PromeQL and Grafana. You know, having tons of data is one thing, but if it's locked away in some tool you never look at, what's the point? The next big idea here is about bringing all that valuable data to you, right where you're already working, so you don't have to go hunting for it. Oh man, every single engineer has felt this pain. An alert goes off, and what do? You start frantically jumping around. You've got one tab open for your Kubernetes dashboard, another for your logging tool, another for metrics. It's just chaos. The goal is to stop that frantic shuffle and put all the signals you need in one single place. And the cool thing is, fixing this is now super simple. You're literally just inside your GKE or Cloud Run page in the console you're already familiar with. You click a Customize button, and then you just drag and drop the charts you care about. Want to see your load balancer metrics right next to your application's error logs? Done. See a chart that looks a little suspicious and want to create an alert on it right then and there? You can do that too, all in one place. Okay, but let's talk about the elephant in the room, cost. A powerful monitoring setup is great, but it can't break the bank, right? A system has to be cost-effective. So let's break down how you can manage your spending without flying blind. So first, it's really important to get how the pricing works. Think of it this way. Google Cloud gives you a ton of the basic system metrics, like the overall CPU usage of a VM, completely free. You only start paying when you want that really deep, high-value data, like getting CPU usage for each individual process from the ops agent, or custom business metrics from your own application. It lets you make a conscious choice about what's worth paying for. And the good news is you've got a bunch of levers you can pull to control that cost. Here are 4 quick pro tips. First up, cardinality. Seriously, do not put things with unique values, like a user's IP address or a session ID, into a metric label. That's a recipe for a huge bill. Second, just write data less often. Ask yourself if you really need data every minute, or if every 2 minutes would be just fine. That one change can cut your costs in half. Third, be ruthless. If you have metrics you're collecting but never actually look at, use a filter to just stop sending them. And finally, think about aggregating. Maybe you don't need a full distribution of latency numbers. Maybe just sending the max latency is good enough for your alerts. And this quote just brings it all home, doesn't it? At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. An error budget is not about getting permission to fail. It's about using data to make smart, strategic decisions about your single most valuable resource, your engineering team's time. So I'm going to leave you with this one thought to chew on. If you and your team could stop chasing the ghost of 100% uptime and instead had an error budget to spend, what would that unlock? What new features, what bold experiments, what incredible innovations could you finally build? Thanks for watching.